Here's the harsh truth. Being too nice is the fastest way to become invisible to women you want to attract. That's the secret the dating world doesn't want you to know. The paradox that flips everything you thought you understood about doing the right thing. You can be kind, generous, respectful, all the qualities society preaches, but still find yourself unremarkable and overlooked. And deep down, it terrifies you because you wonder if being good and nice isn't working. What does? Why does your best behavior no longer command attention or desire? What's going on here is not just social misunderstanding. It is biological fact rooted in evolution and hardwired female psychology. Women's attraction is governed by ancient neurological circuits designed for survival and reproductive advantage, not social approval. The female brain doesn't respond to niceness the way your conscious mind hopes. It reacts to embedded signals of dominance, confidence, and mystery. The nice guy acts predictably. He signals safety and friendship, which are desirable qualities, but only once attraction is already established. That's the catch. Niceness is not the spark that ignites desire. It's the comfort that maintains it later. The core problem men face today is a fundamental misread of female signals. Men are taught that good behavior, politeness, and pleasing women will unlock connection. Yet attraction is not a transaction or a contract. It is a complex, often unconscious process of assessing which male carries the genes and mindset that can enhance survival and legacy. This is why displays of uncertainty, excessive agreeability, and eagerness register in the female brain as low-value signals. The female limbic system, finely tuned through millennia of selection, is alert to subtle hormonal and behavioral cues that reveal confidence, unpredictability, and social dominance, elements completely absent from the too nice man's repertoire. Science confirms this. Studies in evolutionary psychology reveal that female attraction elevates displays of testosterone-driven behaviors, assertiveness, risk-taking, and controlled unpredictability. These behaviors activate dopamine pathways in the brain, creating excitement and a powerful neurological reward. On the other hand, oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, increases trust and connection but does not create the initial spark. It's the difference between the lure of the hunt and the security of the den. The nice guy often tries to jump straight to the comfort phase, bypassing the primal dance that precedes genuine desire. Add to this the fear of loss, the primal adrenaline that makes the heart race and elicits attention. Without tension, challenge, or a sense of risk, female attraction wanes. The too nice man offers certainty, predictability, and zero tension. He emits the biological signal of one who is readily available and utterly safe, a noble trait perhaps for friendship, but poison for desire. Ironically, the very traits meant to attract can camouflage the man into a background blur of kindness, invisible to the unconscious radar that women evolved to scan for high-value mates. There is a deeper paradox concealed beneath this dynamic. Women are neurologically wired to want men who can hold power over themselves, their environment, and even their own impulses. The too nice man abdicates this influence in an attempt to avoid conflict, discomfort, or rejection. He misinterprets female communication, mistaking kindness for attraction or friendship for love. In reality, he becomes a social safety net, a psychological placeholder, supportive and steady, but ultimately overlooked because he signals no challenge, no edge, no mystery. This is not about cruelty or manipulation. It's a biological imperative. The female brain has evolved as a selective force for genetic excellence, navigating millennia of survival pressures and reproductive strategies. Attraction, at its essence, is a high-stakes negotiation beneath conscious awareness. The unwelcome truth is that niceness alone is insufficient and sometimes counterproductive. This simple yet devastating insight means that many men, despite their best intentions and efforts, live in a state of perpetual invisibility, watching women slip away, wondering why the formula of kindness isn't enough. In this shadowy space of desire, where visibility and invisibility flicker like a candle in the dark. The question emerges: how does a man who is too nice lose his power to attract? What hidden signals does he unwittingly send that push women toward other men? Is there a way to unlock the secret code of female desire without sacrificing integrity or turning into someone unrecognizable? Because the truth you crave, the psychological advantage you seek, lies not in superficial charm or polite manners. It's buried deep within those primal dynamics, encoded in hormones, brainwaves, and evolutionary design. And so the story begins. An exploration into the invisible forces that make kindness a curse. Why the prize slips through the grasp of the gentle-hearted, and how mastery over these dark, ancient currents can transform invisibility into magnetic presence. The answer is not in being more nice, it's in being more than nice. It's a provocative journey into the biological calculus of attraction, a revelation of the silent, unforgiving code women's minds run every moment they size a man up. Because once you see what too nice really signals, you'll understand the invisible barrier standing between you and the connection you truly want. The question is, will you dare to confront it? If niceness is the camouflage that conceals you in the shadows, then what is the signal that cuts through the noise and pierces the veil of female indifference? What invisible magnetic current changes the game and awakens that ancient instinctual dance women have been wired for since time immemorial? It is not kindness alone. It is the delicate balance of power and vulnerability, the thrilling tension between accessibility and enigma. The too nice man trades mystery for transparency, predictability for safety, unknowingly fading into background scenery while the primal mechanisms of desire pulse relentlessly elsewhere. The female brain, exquisite in its complexity, is, at its core, an arbiter of subtle cues, micro-expressions of strength and silent declarations of control. Whispered in gestures, tone, and even the tempo of speech. It's not about aggression or domination in the vulgar sense, but about an unmistakable mastery over oneself and one's environment. This mastery emits a biological signal, strength tempered with restraint, that triggers a woman's dopamine pathways, flooding her system with anticipation and excitement. It is the difference between the man who stands firmly in his presence and the one who bends beneath the weight of his own insecurities. Psychologically, this dynamic stems from an evolutionary wisdom embedded deep in the limbic system, the ancient seat of emotion. When a woman senses a man's command of his own life, his ability to navigate uncertainty without collapse, her brain recognizes a protector, a provider, and an evolutionary advantage that promises security, not just for the present, but for future generations. Yet, this security is not granted through monotony or obedience. It comes wrapped in unpredictability and the thrill of risk. The paradox here is biting. Stability is desired, but only once the spark of challenge and intrigue has sparked the fire of interest. Unpacking this further, dopamine is the currency of desire. It reacts not to comfort but to suspense, triumph, and sometimes even subtle resistance. When a man presents himself as a puzzle, a presence with a purposeful edge, dopamine circuits light up in a woman's brain, unleashing a chemical symphony that whispers of unexplored possibilities. By contrast, oxytocin, the hormone tied to trust and bonding, arrives later in the process, strengthening attachment but incapable of initiating that initial blaze of longing. The nice guy often inadvertently short-circuits this sequence, rushing to safety, to friendship, to emotional closeness before the neurological groundwork of desire has been laid. The result is a dissonance, a dormant response where excitement should lie. Here lies the cruel truth. Desire thrives on a biological paradox, an emotional tension forged from the interplay of approach and withdrawal, clarity and mystery, confidence and challenge. The male who surrenders too quickly to being liked, to avoiding conflict or difficult emotional expression, sacrifices the very signals that ignite female interest. He becomes a safe harbor, where turbulence and storm are absent. But so too is the magnetic force drawing women close. A gentle demeanor without boundaries signals availability but not value. It whispers, "I am here, but I am not the prize." This is not manipulative trickery. This is the language of nature. Attraction is coded in layers of instinct and impulse that operate beneath conscious thought. When a man embraces the power within himself, his desires, imperfections, contradictions, he sends a biological message that taps into the hidden desire etched into female psychology over millennia. He asserts autonomy, and in doing so, commands respect not through force, but through undeniable presence, the subtle confidence to embrace tension, to tolerate uncertainty, even to generate mystery, becomes the unseen architecture of romantic magnetism. Yet, this transformation demands emotional courage and a shift in perspective. It requires shedding the comforting illusion that niceness alone is the bridge to female attraction. Instead, it calls for a courageous ownership of self, a willingness to be seen imperfectly, to accept risk, and to hold boundaries with quiet authority. It is the enigma within the man, the interplay of light and shadow in his character, that compels a woman's mind to linger, to explore, to desire. Without this complicated dance, the interaction remains a bland, biological misfire, potential unrealized, connection frayed before its ignition. This hidden code explains why some men, less conventionally nice, command attention effortlessly, why their presence is impossible to ignore despite flaws or provocations. Their value lies in the biological truth that attraction is as much about challenge as comfort, as much about tension as trust. Women do not merely seek kindness. They seek the undercurrent of power and unpredictability beneath it. The complex narrative whispered by a man who owns both his light and his shadows. It is the difference between being seen and being desired, between friendship and the luminous, dangerous spark of attraction. The question then is not how to be nice, but how to transcend niceness and become what niceness alone can never achieve. How to align your biological signals with the deepest evolutionary impulses driving female psychology. How to cultivate a presence that simultaneously invites and resists, soothes and excites, comforts and challenges. A presence irresistible because it is authentic and charged with quiet, unyielding power. In this truth lies both the puzzle and its solution. Attraction is not a destination reached by good behavior, but a journey fueled by the volatile alchemy of emotional paradox. To emerge from invisibility, a man must master the tension within himself, mastering the silent language that women's minds read in every glance, every pause, every flicker of restraint, because desire, at its core, is a dialogue whispered in the dark, between two ancient brains calibrated by time and survival, where signals of strength, mystery, and vulnerability collide to create the electric pulse of human connection. And within this silent negotiation of biology and emotion, the man who dares to rewrite the script will find a new kind of power, not the power of aggression or dominance, but the power of magnetic presence forged in the fire of authenticity, paradox, and the untamed depths of the primal self. The invitation is clear. It is a curious and unsettling realization. The very qualities you have been taught to cultivate, the kindness and reliability that ought to endear you to others, instead cast shadows over your presence, rendering you faint and forgettable. But why? Because beneath the syllables of societal norms beats an ancient, relentless drum, a primal rhythm dictating attraction with ruthless precision. The female mind, sculpted by millions of years of survival and selection, doesn't dance to the tune of etiquette or politeness alone. It is compelled by a deeper current, one that reverberates with power, mystery, and risk. This is the hidden choreography of desire, one neither polite nor simple, but necessary, because attraction is not born from ease or certainty. It breathes in the tension of challenge. Imagine for a moment the unseen interface where biology meets behavior, where the subtleties of a glance or the cadence of a voice translate into deeply coded messages. When a woman's mind registers a man, It subconsciously parses a complex bundle of signals, some overt but many invisible, carrying implications for safety, provision, and, most importantly, genetic fitness. In this quiet, shadowed theater, niceness registers as predictable, and predictability as a lack of edge. The female brain, wired to assess potential mates through fluctuating neurochemical states, searches for fluctuations, not monotony, in the signals it receives. It hungers for complexity, for a man who is not easily pinned down but who excites inner circuits linked to dopamine surges, those elixirs of novelty and reward. Herein lies the cruel irony. One who is too comfortable, too agreeable, emits the signal of availability without consequence. He reveals himself as a man who does not hold the reins of his inner world snugly enough. His restraint appears feeble, his emotional and social boundaries permeable. To the female subconscious, this suggests an absence of mastery, a lack of self-possession and strength. The hidden biological script reads, "This is a man who will not protect or challenge me." Not a force of nature but a gentle stream easily redirected. Woman's primal impulse is stirred by attention and uncertainty, a celestial dance of approach and retreat. The too nice man offers no tension. Instead, he proffers certainty and certainty. In the realm of attraction is the great sedative. Dopamine thrives on uncertainty. It thrives on the edge of the unknown, where possibility sharpens perception. A man who embodies unpredictability, who dares to assert his own narrative without crumbling under the weight of anticipated rejection, ignites the dark fire of desire. It is not cruelty, but a display of controlled volatility, an embodiment of agency. The female brain rewards this stimulus with a cascade of biological compounds that paint a man in vivid colors of allure and fascination. Conversely, oxytocin, that gentle hormone of comfort and bonding, follows attraction like a loyal shadow. It consolidates attachment but does not spark initial desire. The nice guy offers oxytocin before dopamine, but without dopamine's primal spark, the relationship stalls in neutral, lost in a fog of friendship masquerading as something more. This misalignment between expectation and biological reality produces a complex emotional paradox for both sexes. Women find themselves drawn, simultaneously repelled and captivated by men who evoke both fear and marvel, men whose very presence whispers of challenge and transformation. And men, in turn, find themselves locked in confusion, wondering why their goodness does not translate into desire. The truth dissolves their carefully constructed illusions. Attraction is not a kind ledger, balanced with good deeds and virtues. It is a volatile alchemy of power and surrender, dominance and vulnerability. It is shaped not by polite acquiescence but by the ability to evoke a landscape where uncertainty reigns and emotional stakes flicker like a flame caught in a storm. In everyday life, the consequences of these hidden dynamics reveal themselves in the subtle dance of connection and distance. When a man hesitates, when he dilutes his presence in the hope of pleasing, he in fact signals surrender. He abdicates the invisible throne of leadership within the social exchange. Women intuitively recognize this absence of authority. It translates as a withdrawal of his emotional gravity, rendering his efforts futile. The very act of trying too hard to be liked paradoxically designates him as low value. It is an invisible sign painted in the language of biology. I am not a challenge. I am not a prize. And what the female mind craves, deeply and unrelentingly, is a man who commands the space around him, that radiates a self-contained power that says without words, I am here, I am worthy, and I am not afraid to claim my place. This is why the most magnetic men are often those who master the tension between approach and withdrawal, between generosity and guardedness. They understand that attraction requires balance, a dance between revealing and concealing, and that the signal of confidence is rooted not in constant reassurance but in a quiet, sometimes inscrutable self-possession. They embody a psychological grandness that goes beyond simple niceness, tapping into a reservoir of mystery and dominance without betraying kindness. This is not a mask worn for manipulation, but a natural emanation of their inner alignment with their own desires and boundaries. And so the question hangs in the air like smoke in twilight. If niceness seeds power and invisibility, then what is the substance of power itself? What is the nature of this magnetic core that turns desert sands into fertile ground under a woman's gaze? The answer lies buried within the biological doctrines written long before words breathed life into culture, the silent codes of survival, legacy, and the thrilling, dangerous poetry of desire. To grasp these forces is to step across the threshold where social conditioning dissolves, where one must confront the raw, beautiful paradox that true attraction demands that a man be more than just good. He must embody the profound wildness of his own uncharted depths. It is here that power whispers to presence, and presence speaks in the dialect of desire.
Cheers, everyone!
What if I told you that every smile you offer, every earnest word you speak, and every reassuring gesture you make carries within it a hidden paradox, an echo of surrender that subtly diminishes your power before you even realize it? The very kindness you wield, which you believe to be your greatest strength, often acts like a whisper in the dark, felt but unseen. Comforting but unremarkable, the female brain, primed by millions of years of selective pressure, craves not the certainty of kindness alone but the flickering flame of challenge. The intoxicating pulse of unpredictability that signals life on the edge, the capability to disrupt and command. Herein lies the cruel irony, in your eagerness to soothe and please. You extinguish the fires that kindle desire. This dynamic is not merely social, it is deeply biological. Women's attraction is not a checklist of virtues but a silent calculus conducted in the shadowlands between consciousness and instinct. When faced with the steady glow of niceness, the neural circuits that ignite passion dim. Dopamine, the chemical wellspring of desire, thrives on uncertainty, on a tantalizing blend of reward and risk. It is the neurological equivalent of hunger, intensified through suspense and challenge. The predictable, nice guy offers no suspense, no risk. His predictability signals an absence of the very traits evolution has coded as valuable: dominance over chaos, mastery of self and circumstance, a hint of danger veiled in control. Women's brains are optimized to distinguish these subtle signals, like lie detectors wired into a neural system honed by thousands of generations. Dominance isn't about domination in the crude sense, it is a signal of competency, assertiveness, and confidence, qualities that promise survival and prosperity. But dominance is also elusive. It flickers in body language, in tone, in the courage to stand apart from the herd. It whispers through silent pauses, calculated silence, the refusal to acquiesce too quickly, the refusal to be fully owned by the immediate moment. The nice guy, in contrast, floods the environment with clarity and accessibility. He floods the atmosphere with agreement and compliance. His signals scream low risk, low reward. The female brain labels this as safe, which is comforting but ultimately uninspiring. And there is a deeper emotional paradox buried beneath this truth. Nice men do not merely fail to generate desire. They often become the unwitting anchors that tether women to a safe but passionless existence. Because kindness is perceived by the female limbic system as an invitation to settle, not to leap. The oxytocin released in moments of kindness builds connection and security. It binds. It soothes. It promises permanence. But it is dopamine that sparks the kindling of love's flame. When a man rushes prematurely into oxytocin-driven behaviors, he bypasses the biological imperative to first stimulate desire. His presence is steady, yes, but his aura flattens into familiarity too soon, pushing a woman's brain to switch from a mode of hunting to one of nesting. Desire, in its purest form, resists nesting. It thrives in the thrilling uncertainty of the chase. To be too nice is to offer a biological signal that says, in no uncertain terms, I am already yours, before the mind and body have truly agreed. It is as if a man is auctioning off his value at a discount, removing the tension that fuels attention. This dissolves the magnetic charge that electrifies moments of connection, leaving behind a space filled with comfort but devoid of yearning. It is not weakness, but misplaced strength, a sacrificial gesture that undermines the primal dance scripted into our DNA. You find yourself in the paradoxical position of being present yet unseen, available yet invisible, desired yet untouchable. The evolutionary lens sharpens this insight further. Male displays of confidence are evolutionary stakes driven through millennia. They serve as honest indicators to the female mind that a man possesses the genetic fortitude and psychosocial mastery necessary to protect, provide, and preserve. Complexity stirs the female brain. Complexity rife with risk and reward, certainty and illusion. The nice guy forgoes this complexity in favor of ease and harmony, two qualities that evolution does not prize at the moment desire is being forged. Not all risk is created equal, of course. The risk that captivates is not recklessness but the calm embrace of uncertainty coupled with strategic control. This tension activates brain circuits wired to respond to power tempered by restraint. A dance that conveys the man as both a challenge and a prize. It is this intricate interplay, this carefully balanced oscillation between dominance and vulnerability, between unpredictability and reliability, that escapes most men trapped in the niceness trap. Women crave a man who is not simply good, but enigmatic, not just respectful but magnetic, not only kind but compelling enough to awaken ancient survival instincts. Behind the warm smile, the generous deed, lies an unconscious question a woman's brain poses. Can this man lead? Can he disrupt? Can he claim me without breaking me? Is he a force or merely a friend? These questions don't announce themselves. They infiltrate every interaction through the invisible language of instinct, imbuing attraction with depth or draining it of all color. Relationships forged without this primal spark often collapse into the morass of friendship or stagnate into silent dissatisfaction. When desire is absent, connection becomes transactional, warmth turns into routine, and the emotional landscape flattens into desertion disguised as peace. Here lies the bitter harvest of the nice guy's plight, years invested in generosity, patience, and respect met with polite disinterest, quiet withdrawal, or worse, the slow fading into background noise. It is a biological fact that attraction, once lost, is elusive to reignite. The brain's selective filters, once calibrated toward another stimulus, disengage with steady familiarity. The heart yearns for the thrill, not merely the embrace. What if the secret is not to abandon kindness, but to embed it within a richer, more complex signal? What if true power lies not in overt domination or cold calculation, but in mastering the paradox of presence, the ability to be both unpredictable? The truth that shakes the foundations of your understanding is this: attraction is never a fair exchange, never a ledger balanced with polite gestures and agreeable words. It is a wild, unruly current beneath the surface of social niceties, an invisible storm where signals clash and instincts roar. When a man is too nice, he floods this current with calm waters, diluting the voltage, sedating the subtle electrical pulse that sparks intrigue deep inside the female brain. What she senses, often without words or conscious thought, is not just kindness or generosity. It's the absence of a vital, primal signal, the whisper of danger tangled with promise, the edge of unpredictability that sets desire aflame. This absence reveals itself as a profound psychological paradox. Women do not seek refuge in certainty when their attraction is invited. Rather, they crave the thrill of uncertainty, the luring tension between safety and risk that births fascination. Imagine the female brain as an ancient sentinel, wired to hunt for men whose presence suggests dominance over chaos, mastery of self and circumstance, and the power to ignite the unknown. This sentinel does not value niceness as a guide. It reads power in subtle cues, tone of voice, body language, a hint of defiance in easy confidence. And when those qualities are missing, When the man becomes too predictable, too accommodating, his signal fades into static noise. He becomes invisible, not for lack of goodness, but because goodness alone does not command attention. It does not awaken the hungry circuitry longing for challenge and intrigue. Scientific exploration into this domain reveals something both stunning and unsettling. Dopamine, the brain's messenger of reward and anticipation, is triggered not by comfort but by novelty and uncertainty. It is the rush of impending risk, the electric jolt of unpredictability, calculated risk, never recklessness, that electrifies attraction. A man who always says, yes, who conforms to patterns to avoid friction, shuts down this dopamine spike. Instead, what floods the brain is oxytocin, a different chemical relegated to the realm of bonding, trust, and lasting connection. Oxytocin can hold a relationship together long after the flame has been kindled, but it does not spark the initial ignition. To attract on a primal level, a man must first make the woman's limbic system pulse with dopamine-fueled excitement. A challenge impossible for the nice man who offers a sandbox with no edges, no walls to climb or shadows to explore. Underneath this dance lies a deeper biological truth. Female attraction is an assessment of a man's capacity for unpredictability and control, his ability to navigate the tension between safety and danger. It is a risk calculus embedded into the female limbic architecture. When a man's behavior signals excessive agreeability, it is decoded as a surrender of that tension, an abdication of power, an admission of low social rank. His biological signal shrinks in amplitude. The woman's unconscious mind registers this as unrewarding, even dull, and this leads to a heartbreaking consequence. The man who tries hardest to please, who sacrifices his own impulses, who avoids friction as though it is the enemy, finds himself overlooked not because he is inadequate, but because he has rendered himself predictable, thus irrelevant in the ancient codes that guide female desire. This biological logic extends beyond mere interpersonal chemistry into the social domain. Dominance, in this context, is not the crude imposition often mistaken in modern discourse. It is the silent strength that emerges from self-possession, from a man's ability to command his own internal state, to hold his ground when circumstances shift, to evoke intrigue by being an enigma wrapped in composed confidence. It is a power that communicates, I am not easily swayed. I exist beyond your need for me to be agreeable. Such a signal excites the female brain's radar like a bright flare in the dark. The nice guy, by contrast, extinguishes this spark. In trying to be everything to everyone, he becomes no one, a vessel empty of challenge or complexity, invisible to the primal impulse that drives attraction. The emotional paradox runs deeper still. The too nice man often mistakes frustration for failure, blaming himself for the elusive nature of desire. Yet the blame is misplaced. The invisible barrier that diverts attention is not a reflection of character weakness or moral deficiency. It is the reflection of biological algorithms operating beneath awareness, pushing the gentle-hearted man into the shadows, regardless of his intentions. His kindness is a double-edged sword, a shield that protects friendship but a veil that obscures passion. The irony is merciless. The more he tries to break through with generosity and sweetness, the more he amplifies the signal that repels the primal core of female desire. In real-world encounters, these hidden dynamics manifest as a painful pattern. The nice guy lingers on the periphery, trusted, liked, and inevitably passed over. He watches the prize slip away each time a woman's gaze locks instead with the man who carries an enigmatic tension, a controlled wildness, a promise unspoken. He is invited to social arenas but denied entry to the realms where desire is forged. And in the quiet hours, when consciousness fades and the mind races, he asks, how can being good be my undoing? How can the very essence that makes me decent make me invisible? The answer lies not in rejection but in transformation, a journey into the very core of biological resonance. To move beyond invisibility, a man must embrace complexity, the dark, shadowed layers of his own psyche where conflict and uncertainty reside, where strength is forged not in compliance but in the courage to be unpredictable, to set boundaries, to evoke desire through controlled tension. He must learn to wield his power without cruelty, to carry mystery without deception, to radiate confidence not through loud declaration but through quiet command. This is not about abandoning kindness but about integrating it into a richer, more magnetic presence. It is a subtle dance on a razor's edge between warmth and challenge, between invitation and restraint. And here we arrive at a profound insight. Desire is a negotiation of primal signals, a silent dialogue between ancient neural circuits that transcend reason and morality. The kindest heart without an edge becomes a whisper in the tempest, heard but forgotten, present but unseen. To break through this silence, a man must become more than nice. He must become an enigma, a force of nature wrapped in deliberate choice and emotional complexity. Only then does he awaken the sleeping dragon of female attraction, stirring a hunger that is less about safety and more about the sacred dance of power and surrender that has shaped human longing since the dawn of time. In the end, the question is not simply how to attract. It is how to embody a presence so alive with tension and essence that it interrupts the static, calls forth hidden desire, and commands attention on a level deeper than words. Because desire does not bloom in the garden of predictability, but in the wild, dark forest where uncertainty rules and the savage code of attraction whispers its unforgiving truths. Will you remain the safe harbor, or will you step into the storm?